so we're just gonna start seated. So come into a comfortable seat to begin. It could be cross-legged, it could be on a chair or block, whatever feels good for you, really. All right, and I like to wriggle a little, make sure both sit bones feel evenly planted down, and then from that sort of pressing down against the earth with the pelvis, find some length through the spine, all the way up through the back of the head. So we want the spine nice and long and free and easy so that the breath can flow more freely and easily, yeah? Glasses are coming off now. All right, feel free to roll your shoulders back, soften the gaze on the floor in front of you, or just let your eyes close whenever you want to, yeah? And let's just take a few long, smooth, clearing, cleansing breaths just to really settle into the body, into sensation, into this present moment awareness. So all the breath today will be in and out of the nose if that's possible for you. So just a nice, long, spacious breath in and a very relaxing, soothing breath out. Already that feels good, doesn't it? Do that a couple more times. Your rhythm and pace. And just starting to let go as you breathe out, starting to let go of not only the breath, but tension or worry or any kind of anticipation. Good, and then the next 3 rounds of breath before we move into the alternate nostril breathing, I just want you to see if you can experience making the breath a little longer on both the inhalation and the exhalation, as well as noticing that little space, that little pause at the top of the inhale before it becomes the exhale, and that little pause at the bottom of the exhale before it becomes the inhale again. So just play with it. I like to call this playing with the pause. It does exist, and we can make it a little longer if we want to, but without any force or effort. And so you're not holding the breath, right? You're just noticing. I kind of sometimes think of it like at the top of a roller coaster. You know how the car sort of pauses before it then drifts down. And then there's that sort of coast at the bottom where it pauses before it comes back up, if that analogy helps you. And so what happens in these spaces between the breaths? Often in this space is where we really sort of settle into ourselves, to this emptiness. This space between the thoughts also tends to create space. The space between the breaths also tends to create space between the thoughts. All right, so we're going to start the Nadi Shodhana. So I'll explain it and then we'll do it. Feel free to keep the breath moving just like you are right now while you're listening. And we want to breathe through both sides of the nose. So if one feels a little bit congested, maybe you can try to clear it out, get a tissue. It will start to clear as we practice. So ideally, usually, the middle finger of the right hand rests right between the brows. That way you don't have to hold up your arm. And then the ring finger is going to be used to close the left nostril. The thumb's going to be used to close the right nostril. So find that nice long spine. And through both nostrils, we breathe in. Notice the pause and then close the right nostril with the thumb and breathe out through the left. Notice if there's a gentle, short pause at the bottom. Breathe in through the left. Pause there at the top, close the left, and breathe out through the right. Staying just where you are, pausing and breathing in on the right. And then closing the right as you pause and breathing out through the left. Notice the pause, enjoy it, and then stay here to breathe in. Pause to switch after each inhalation. Breathe out through the right. Play with that little pause, short or long. Stay and breathe in. Pausing after the inhalation to switch and breathe out. Play with that pause. Breathe in, same side. Pause to experience that emptiness. Switch and breathe out the right. Notice the pause. Can you relax into it? Stay here, breathe in. Pause, relax, switch, breathe out left. Enjoy that spaciousness, that emptiness. Breathe in left. Pause, relax, and switch. Breathe out right. Relax into that spaciousness, that space between the thoughts. In right. Pause, stay relaxed, don't force it. Out left. Relax in the pause, in left. Pause, switch, out right. Go one more cycle. Pause, relax, in right. Pause, relax, switch, out left. Release your hand. Enjoy that pause, and then through both nostrils, breathe in. Pause at the top, maybe this time a little bit longer. What are you feeling? What are you noticing? Is there freedom there? And then let go of the breath. Let it all move out. Let yourself settle in to your seat, to your body, and notice that gentle pause, like you're just coasting. And then returning to the breath through both nostrils in with a gentle temporary pause at the top, and out with a gentle temporary relaxed pause at the bottom. And as you continue this for just maybe 4 or 5 cycles of breath, I want you just to notice. Is there resistance? Is it creating any stress? If so, let it go and just let the breath be free, of course. But is there an opportunity to just experience sort of an empty slate, a freedom, a spaciousness, a fullness between the breaths, between the thoughts? Right? When we quiet down and there's that little break in the action between the thoughts, that's when our intuition can speak to us. That's when we can hear and listen to higher wisdom. So we're just going to play very gently with this type of breathing as we start to move. There's a natural pause at the top and the bottom of the inhalation. If you lose it, if it's too much for you to pay attention to, don't worry about it. But it's there for you anytime your mind starts to drift away and you want to come back to really being present and aware. So feel free to open the eyes if they were closed. Let the breath continue to flow in that really relaxed, conscious manner. And then just take the shoulders in some circles. Feel free to move the head any way that you like. And just loosen up any tension in the neck. You might notice there's a little bit more freedom in the sinuses after that. Good. And then just let your right hand come to the floor next to you. Lift your left hand up and go ahead and lean over to the right as you plant that left sit bone. You can look down at the hand or look forward and just breathe into those left ribs there. Pausing as you press against the floor to come back to center. Left hand comes down, right hand lifts up. And go ahead and lean over to the left. Just drop that left shoulder, open into the right ribs there. Plant that right sit bone, looking down or forward. Just notice it. Pausing as you exhale. You can hug the belly in a little to come back up. Good. And then take both hands behind you. You can interlace fingers or bring the fingertips to the floor. Roll the shoulders back, lift the heart. You can look up if that's comfortable for your neck. For me, it's not. I like to look forward or sometimes even down. And just feel the front of the chest get a little bit bigger as the elbow tips try to touch together. Yeah. And then just keep the left hand back there. Lift the right hand up. I always forget to mirror. Turn to the left and take the right hand to the outer leg. Drop the shoulders, lengthen through the spine, inhaling, pausing at the top. And exhaling as you soften. Pausing at the bottom to turn the gaze back forward and then release. Right hand behind you, left hand up. Inhale. Good. Turn to the right. As you exhale, drop that left hand to the outer leg. Drop the shoulders, lengthen the spine. Inhale and pause at the top, just gently. As you exhale, let all the breath go. Let your shoulders drop. Pause at the bottom of that exhale to pull the belly in. You're going to get a little emptier. And then gaze turns forward and come back to center. Reach up, take a breath. Good. Hands can come to the floor in front of you just to simply lift your hips, uncross your ankles, and I'm going to be in the wrong direction, but we're at hands and knees. And if it doesn't work for you to get up that way, come up a different way. All right, you guys. Keep the breath flowing as you start to move the spine, undulating the spine. So cat-cows. Inhale as the gaze comes forward. The shoulders draw back, sit bones lifting. Pausing if you want. Rounding the back as you exhale, dropping the head, pressing the floor. And remember, at that pause at the bottom, you can hug the belly in to empty out a little bit more. And then again, inhaling. Maybe there's a pause. Notice it. Where's their tightness? Relaxing as you exhale. Emptying, pausing. Good. And then keep that going. You can either go front to back, or what I prefer is circling the head, circling the hips, half circles, full circles, any kind of movement. So you just feel into all the different movements that your spine can make. And you can suss out how your hips are feeling. You can lift the feet, roll around the ankles. You can press the hips all the way back to the heels for a child's pose, or swing the hips a little side to side in child's pose. Just, again, feeling what's happening here and now in your body as the breath moves through you, and playing, if you want, with those little tiny, short, gentle pauses between. When you're ready, come back up to hands and knees. And all we're going to do today is step the right foot forward. So you're going to stay on the left knee. I'm no longer mirroring, by the way. Hug that right hip back. And on an inhale, both hands are going to lift straight up. So you want to just make sure you're aligned. So your head and hip are right over that left knee. Make sure that you have some padding under it if you need to. Good, and then hug the belly in. Drop the right hand to the right thigh. And then lift the left hand up and over to the right. Again, you're going to drop that right shoulder. It's a little bit like what we just did seated. Feel the pause. Feel the fullness at the top of the inhalation. And see if you can feel and just settle into and soften into the emptiness at the bottom of the exhalation. You're going to pull the belly in, and then both hands come up again on the inhalation. We're just going to cactus the arms here. So elbows draw back, collarbones open up. Maybe the palms can face forward. Often I see people dropping their elbows and lifting their shoulders. Think of dropping your shoulders and lifting your elbows if you can. Good. And then a nice big, sweet, soft inhale into the heart there. Feel it, expand, pause. And then empty the breath. Hug the belly in at the bottom and take your arms together, elbows, forearms touching. Good, and then left arm over right. You can cross the arms, lift the hands, and drop the shoulders. If that's too much, you just take one hand to either shoulder. Then you're going to hug that right hip back a little bit. You can turn the gaze down if that's nice for your neck. It's a nice opening for the back of the neck, back of the heart. Feel the breath there. Soften those shoulders, pull the belly in at the bottom of that exhale, and then let the arms float out and up. Big breath in, free it up. Good, and hands come down to the floor, framing that front foot, and you'll just take the right knee back to the floor next to the left. And then when you're ready, step the left foot forward. Good. Pull the belly in here, and on the next inhale, you just reach up, rise up, align your head and hips over that back knee. Often we're a little tilted forward, so just draw the chest back a little, head back a little. Left foot can almost pull back a little to stabilize you. Left hand drops to the left thigh, right arm up and over. Drop that left shoulder. Feel the breath move into the right ribs. Where does it create a little more freedom, expansion? What happens in the pause? And as you breathe out, can something there soften? Can you draw the belly in to empty the breath a little bit more? And then both arms come up, inhaling. And we'll cactus out the arms on the exhale. Drop the shoulders, but lift the elbows, right? Can the elbows get a little farther behind you? Can the heart stay open? You kind of want to anchor into that front foot for support. What happens in the pause? What happens in the heart opening, expansion? Is there any fear there? Sometimes there is. It's okay. You don't have to hold it long. Belly hugs back as you exhale, elbows come together. And then right elbow comes over left elbow. So the hands can come together and lift, but the shoulders drop. You can gaze down or forward, or again, hands to either shoulder. So see if you can kind of move the elbows forward and upward a little bit so that there's a nice spaciousness behind the heart, behind the neck. And then what happens as you pause there and fill gently? What happens when you empty? Pull that belly in on your inhale, release the arms, let them fly out and up, release it all. And then hands come back to the floor, left knee next to right. We'll just cat-cow or circle and swivel and spiral around to loosen up. Nice. And then from here, we'll curl the toes under, make our way to downward facing dog. And if you don't want to do down dog today, if you really want to be more gentle, then you can just come into puppy dog, which is just pulling your hips back, extending your hands forward. Hips can stay over the knees if that's nicer for you. Kind of the same pose. And then play here with the pause, just about 3 breaths. Right, so there's actually 4 parts to the breath. There's the inhalation and the retention at the top. Although we're not holding, we're just noticing. And then there's the exhalation and that gentle pause, that retention at the bottom. But we're not stopping and starting the breath, right? We're just keeping it smooth and simply noticing those transition points. When you're ready, bend the knees and look forward, and then simply walk up to the front of your yoga mat. Coming halfway up as you inhale, lengthening the spine, and folding in half as you exhale, dropping the head. Good, and then let's press and rise up on an inhale. Let the breath carry you up, fill you up, reach up. Pause. Hands come to the heart as you exhale, soften the shoulders. Little baby pause just to settle in. Good, reach up, inhale. Notice the fullness. Fold in half, exhale. Notice the emptiness. Pull the belly in a little. We're just going to step the left foot all the way back. So a really, really big step back this time. And then drop the knee down. But now it's not beneath the hip. It's quite far back there. And then all I want you to do is pull the heart gently forward away from that back knee. You can release the back toes if you're able to. Hug the right hip back a little bit. And gaze forward. Draw the shoulders down the back. So you want to let that top, that front of the left hip dip a little bit. If you want to feel it a little more, right hand comes to the right thigh. And you're just going to turn your gaze back over the right shoulder as that front of the left hip dips. Yeah, and breathe. Feel free, you guys, to abandon the pauses or just to notice them so gently, so subtly. They don't have to last long. Feel free to lift the back foot. That might be enough to get you a little release on the quadricep, or you can grab the foot with the hand and gently draw it toward you. Yeah, that's enough. Let's release it. Take the right hand outside the right foot here, and then just shift the right hip back and fold over the right leg. So one of the reasons we wanted the back knee back so far is so that when you draw the hips back, you want to land over that back knee. You don't want to be far behind it. So if that's the case, just wiggle the front foot a little farther forward. And then think of drawing the hip back, but extend the heart forward here as you breathe in. Pause. And fold as you exhale. Drop the head. Pause to empty, to soften, to let go. And then a few rounds like that. Breathing in. Noticing where the breath wants to travel and fill into. Breathing out, notice what can let go and soften. And what happens in between the breaths. In that stillness between movement, there's often silence. It's pretty sweet. And then the hands are going to stay on the floor. We're just going to move through those two shapes gently. So knee's going to bend, heart is going to lift a little bit here as you inhale. Hip is going to shift back and you're going to fold into the exhale and notice it. And then again, inhaling, heart comes forward, knee bends. Exhaling, folding, rounding, dropping in. That emptiness is so sweet. Last time, inhaling. And exhaling. Good, and then come forward again into the inhalation. Wiggle the right foot over toward the left side of your yoga mat. Let the right knee come down near the right hand. You might need to take the right foot closer to the left hip point or higher toward the left hand, totally up to you. Release the back toes. Let that back hip dip. Let the heart move forward. Take a breath in. Notice it. Keep the length as you fold forward. Drop your head to your hands, to your arms, to the floor, to a pillow, to a block, whatever you need. You may be on your elbows. But just play again with these pauses. So even if there's a sliver of a moment of quieting down, of tuning in, that's huge. Where is there any resistance or holding? What softens? And I find if you're just curious about the pauses, if you're just curious about what happens in between, it creates just an opening. You're in question. You're not searching for anything. And in that questioning, that spaciousness, there's possibility, endless, unlimited possibility. All right, when you're ready, if you're not already on the elbows, come to them and then back up to the hands. We're just going to come out gently by curling under the back toes, lifting up the back knee. You might take the back foot a little closer to the hands there, and then take that right leg all the way up and back to three-legged dog. Right knee lifts and bends and kind of rolls up over the left so that we decompress the hip. Feel free to wiggle the lifted foot or head. And then make your way back to downward facing dog. Feel free to pedal the knees or wiggle the head. Lift those hips. Press into the fingertips. Good. Begin to lift the heels, bend the knees, walk to the front of your mat. Halfway up, inhale, flat back. Fold and half exhale, empty out. And then press and rise up on an inhale, reach up, free up, open up, feel that fullness. Hands to the heart. Exhale, settle into the emptiness, ground into your feet. Beautiful. Reach up, breathe in. Experience it. Fold forward, breathe out. Experience it. Pull the belly in gently and step the right foot all the way back. Giant old big moon step there. Drop the back knee. Slide it as far back as you comfortably can so that right hip point dips down, releasing the toes if possible. It's not always possible. That's all good. See if the left knee can stay over the left heel just to keep that knee safe. And gently, if you can, extend the heart forward as that right hip dips. So these can be quite intense for a lot of us if we're sitting a lot or biking or walking or runners. The hip flexors get quite tight. Using the pauses, using the breath, just to notice and be aware and be curious. And then again, if you want to feel a little more, if it's not enough, left hand comes on top of the left thigh, and you just rotate the left shoulder back or look back over the left shoulder as the front of that right hip sinks a little bit more softly toward the earth. And that left hand can help coax the left knee inward over the heel. Good, and then the gaze comes forward, the left hand comes down, and we're going to shift the hips back and fold. And again, if you need to wiggle the front foot a little further forward so your hips are over the back knee, not behind it, do so, just to keep the knees really safe. And as you hug the hip back, extend forward through the sternum, through the heart, so you're creating a little more spaciousness in the spine. Notice that as you pause at the inhalation. And then drop into your fold as you exhale and really soften, really let go. And can you let the breath sort of undulate, just like the body was undulating in those cat-cow spirally movements? So you're not holding the breath at the top or bottom, right? It's not stopping and starting. It's just a really soft turnover, like the breath is a big oval or figure eight. Right, that coasting at the bottom of a roller coaster or at the top before the car runs down the tracks. Sometimes you can think also of the ocean waves. As they move in and out of the shore, they don't stop or start drastically, right? They build up. There's a crescendo or a crescent, a wave, and then it crashes and moves onto the sand and just slowly, kind of almost pauses before it moves back out into the larger sea. Good, and then the hands stay down. You can readjust them. We're going to move through the two shapes. So you might need to slide the heel back a little bit more now. Inhale as the heart lifts and the knee bends. Notice it. Exhale as you fold, drop the head, notice it. Inhaling, knee bends, heart lifts. Notice the fullness. Where is it in the body? Drop into the fold as you exhale. Notice the emptiness. What can you soften? Maybe the shoulders or the neck or the eyes. Back up on the inhale. And shifting back on the exhale. Good, and then bend the knee again, lift the heart, start to wiggle that left foot over to the right side of the mat. High or low, your choice, depending on what feels right in your hips. Let that frontal right hip point dip, so the hips are sort of facing forward as much as comfortable, and the heart lifts up here on an inhalation. Keep the length as you fold into your pigeon, single pigeon. So hands can rest again on arms, on blocks, on a pillow, or did I say hands can rest? Head can rest, or on the floor. So really common, just letting you know, really common to check out, right? Especially when we find stillness in a pose. Really common just to check out, go back to thoughts, to-do lists, whatever. So can you just notice that? And then regain some control of your active mind by returning to just playing here with the breath. So I'm not even asking for you to stay with the entire breath, right? But just noticing those spaces in between. So it's a little temporary return to your center, to your source, to your essence. And when you start to practice this regularly, you start to really notice that those spaces get longer, bigger, wider. And then the spaces between the thoughts are just more common. There's more freedom and spaciousness in your mind in which to really connect to a higher knowing. Be curious what happens in between. I'm having just a very friendly curiosity about it, by the way. No struggle, no strain, no trying to get anywhere. Just exploring gently. Oh, I think we forgot to bend that back leg. So when you come back up to your elbows and then your hands, since we got it on the first side, and I'm sorry, I forgot on this side, you can bend the back leg, get it right here. You can grab the foot if you want to, it's not necessary. Good. And then letting go of the foot, hands come down, back toes curl under, back knee lifts. When you're ready, left foot up and back to three-legged dog. And then bend the knee, aim it up, press into the floor equally with the hands. You can wiggle the lifted foot or head, and just loosen it. And then when you're ready, left foot comes down, you're in down dog. Pedal out the knees, wiggle the hips. Come back to the breath. And then let your knees come down to the floor. Crawl them forward. We're going to make our way onto our backs now. And we are almost done. So drop back, hug your knees to your chest, take a little side to side rock. One last pose and then we're going to settle into Shavasana. So you can keep both knees in and take them over to one side as the opposite arm moves out, or keep just one knee bent, that same arm moves out and take it over across the body. So just a really gentle twist here. Right arm and shoulder relaxed if you're twisting left. And when we ring out, when we twist, it's often a little bit more noticeable what happens at the top of the breath in. And really nice to let go at the bottom of the exhale. So you just facilitate that letting go, that sort of ringing out. And then coming back to center when you're ready, both knees can move in. And again, both knees can go to the other side, or you can straighten the bottom leg and take the top knee across. Opposite arm moves out. Make sure it's comfortable on the shoulder and the neck. And feel that movement of breath. You can feel the whole, all four parts if you want, or just keep returning to the spaces in between. And again, they might just be such a tiny little space, such a tiny little sliver of transition. It's all good. When you're ready, left knee comes back in. Hug both knees to the chest. Feel free to take any last movement or position you want. Happy baby might feel kind of nice right now, or opening the legs out really wide, or anything at all that feels good, or you just give the knees a little hug. Let's make our way into Shavasana whenever you feel ready. And Shavasana can look any way you want, and if you prefer to be seated now, that's fine too. I'm going to actually sit up, but kind of nice for you to lie back. So even though we didn't move a lot, we moved a lot of energy. whenever we work with the breath, we're moving energy. The breath represents our life force and the energy that animates us, that brings us to life. So you can let go now of playing with those pauses and just let the breath move in and out in its own way, in its own rhythm. Let your body breathe for you. No more efforting. But simply noticing. And although you're not asked to notice what happens between the breaths, if you want to, you can. Can you notice what's happening internally in your body? And then deeper still, sort of in your core self, in your essence, in this deeper, perhaps, connection to a wider view of not just your body and your personality and your ego, but the part of you that connects to your higher self, or all that is, your source, your essence, or however you frame it. Because again, it's really just by quieting down the activity and noise in the mind that we're more able to access this higher wisdom. So perhaps you can just be open to exploring it. Curious about it with a friendly curiosity. And just being in question. What is it? What's there? Is there any knowing or knowledge or insight or image or feeling that wants to show up? Maybe there's something you're questioning in your life right now, and you're just giving it an opportunity to show itself. Without desire or clinging or your attachment, just drop in, let go. And if it doesn't show up now, just know that you're asking the question, you're open to receiving, and it will at some point in time. Gently going to invite you to see if you can drop into your heart space here and now. Because as humans, the mind starts to process and run. Right? So bring your mind into your heart. feeling the movement of your breath there, perhaps the beating of your heart there, and just connecting to this place of feeling and love, compassion, tenderness, support, empathy. The heart really knows more than the brain, and when we lead with our heart, it often is going to take us into a wiser direction or path. So just see if you can get out of your brain and into your heart. Let your awareness settle there so that you can discover what's really in your best interest. And again, just being in question there, just resting your awareness there is enough. Just making that connection is enough. With tenderness, with support, with some self-love, with appreciation. And then to finish off, let's just ask ourselves a simple question. What would your heart like to fill up with? What feeling or thought or emotion or idea? And breathe it in. Pause to hold it for a moment. Experience how it feels. And then as you breathe out, just let it go. Let it all go. Let yourself be as you are, whole and complete, connected, safe, loved. Feel free to stay here in Shavasana as long as you like. And before you move, and if you haven't already, just take notice of how you feel, of how moving energy and playing with those spaces and pauses brought you a little bit more freedom, right? For clarity, for focus, for intuition, for some peace. I want to thank you guys for joining me today. Super sweet practice, again, one of my favorites.